As I was trying to do earlier, new deck. So I'm gonna call this deck Gruul Enrage because that's kind of what it does. If any of you have seen my Naya list, it functions very similarly to that, but without the same mana problems that Naya can sometimes run into. And not quite, you're not going for like the biggest, baddest things in this deck. It's a lot lower to the ground, which I think is a good thing. Alright, Raptor Hatchling. Let's get 4U in here. No, 3. I'm sorry. I've made some adjustments to this deck. On my Naya list, I do actually run 4 Raptor Hatchlings, but this deck decided to cut one. Thrashing Brontodon, that's another card. And once I get through this skeleton, so to speak, I like to call it the skeleton of the deck, just all the cards in there, then I'll actually talk Synergy. I'm just trying to remember what I use, seeing if I can recall it without referencing my phone, doing a little bit of mental training, so to speak. Ranging Raptor. I typed in Ranging Drover. No, it's not a Ranging Drover, it's a Ranging Raptor. Alright. I did actually end up unlocking my 4th Ripjaw Raptor earlier. I believe it was yesterday, so I spent a wild card to get him, just to make this deck a little bit better. What else is there? Savage Stomp. Always a 4 of in a Dino deck. Here's a card that I keep forgetting the name of. What is that red mana fight spell? See if I can find it. There we go. Reckless Rage. 4 of those. What else? What else? Another card I keep forgetting the name of. Regisar Alpha. There we go. Didn't need to search it this time. Remembered it at the last possible second. What else? Oh, you know what card you guys might be surprised to see in this list is Forerunner of the Empire. This guy I have been so impressed with that I actually run 4 of him now, which sounds crazy, but I want to draw him so badly. Like, I know everyone likes Forerunner, like, that's no controversial topic, but the controversial topic in this deck is that I run 4 of him because I like him that much. And I've had no regrets. Like, I notice whenever I ran like 2 or 3 of him, sometimes you just don't draw him because when you're running a 3 of, it's once every 20 cards, you know, that you're gonna get it from a 60 card deck. But when you have 4, it's like once every 15, you know, just on average. Yeah, 4 Forerunners. 4 Forerunners. Get it? 4? Never mind. Don't listen to my silly jokes. Now there's one more card in here. There you go. Needletooth Raptor. And that might be the entire deck. No, there's always a Polyraptor. So many Raptors, I always forget them all. If I had more Needletooth Raptors, I might cut a Thrashing Brontodon for one. And I think that would be pretty cool, having 3 Brontodons and 2 Needletooth Raptors, but I only have 1 currently. But even so, it's really fun because you can easily get him with Forerunner, and that always helps, like say if you're facing Merfolk. So I think I actually have the entire deck, minus 1 card. What is the 1 card that I'm missing? Oh, you know what the card I'm missing is? It's the Green Elder Dinosaur. Another card that I need to remember the name of. Let's see if I can find it here. Galta. There you go. Okay. And I guess before I get into the nitty-gritty, I still do want to add the lands. So let's do that real quick. Arch of Urazka. What's the name of the Gruul dual lands? I know there's Timber Gorge, and what's the other one? Timber Gorge, maybe with a space? see. I'll let you guys tell me what the dual land rootbound crag. There you go. Thank you, Shardot. Sadly, I only have one rootbound crag. I've considered spending rare wildcards on it, but I don't think I want to. I want to build other decks. Like, I get bored if I play the same thing for too long, and right now I'm actually a little bit bored of this deck. But yeah, that's why I'm not going to be buying rootbound crags, even though it would make this deck 10 times better. Easier to add Arch and Gruul. Yeah, I actually have 2 Arches, but because I only have 1 rootbound crag, I'm not sure if I should splash the second one, just because it could really mess up my mana base. Alright, let's get our Ixalan forests in here. What's a dino looking forest? That's right there. I can picture dinosaurs roaming about this forest. So let's throw it in. I can't quite remember the exact number of forests, so you will have to forgive me. It's probably like an even split though. That's what I generally do, is just about even, just so that you don't mess up, so you don't trip on your curve, you know. That's why I like to go roughly even if it's not quite even as far as the permanents are concerned. It looks so I would have 1 more forest in here and then 9 mountains, just to have an equal representation of both red and green. What's a cool dinosaur mountain? Ugh, I'm not using this one because it makes me think of Arena, and right now I'm kind of mad at Arena actually. This update has not been my update. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think of it. I'm a little underwhelmed, if we're being frank. But that's okay. Still get to say that we have higher percentages for various wildcards, I guess. Alright. Is that 60, 59, and I am missing 1 mountain. Okay. So, let's talk. Something about this deck that is different than the Naya version is that it's a lot faster, and I feel like I much less often trip on my curve, which is really good. And that's especially apparent because of Forerunner. Forerunner is so good in this deck, and I'm going to talk about why I run 4 of him. When you set up Anthems with Forerunner, you just win games, because you get your Ranging Raptors with him, and you get your Ripjaw Raptor, and assuming you already have like another one in hand, you can get into these board states very frequently, and I'm sure you've experienced them with like 2 or 3, but it happens a lot more commonly in with 4 Forerunners, because you can just set up these board states where you're drawing a card every time you play a dinosaur, and that's basically what I do. The whole plan with this deck is on turn 3 or 4, because don't forget, Drover is a mana dork, so I am able to get Forerunner out on turn 3 on occasion. On turn 3 or 4, I slam Forerunner, and the goal is to just get a Ripjaw Raptor with him. This is just a general curve. I'm not going to go for this curve against every single deck, but against a lot of decks, I try to go for Forerunner, grab Ripjaw Raptor, play Ripjaw Raptor, draw a card because of Forerunner's damage 1 to everything. And then if I have more Ripjaw Raptors, I play those before anything else. And I get into this board state where, say I have 2 Ripjaw Raptors at that point, because I told you, say I have another one in hand, I play that. And every time I play a dinosaur, I draw 2 cards. And you just start to get so far ahead from your opponent at that point that there's not much they can do, because the card advantage is just too much. You already have 2 4/5s out, and you're drawing 2 cards per turn. Assuming they're like a vampire deck, you're probably also killing a couple things per turn. And that's kind of how I'm approaching this deck right now. There's other synergies that you can see. Because I am Gruul, I feel like Regisaur Alpha into Ghalta is a little bit easier to pull off. And I kind of call it a hybrid deck, because it sort of does the traditional Gruul aggro where you just beat their face in with Regisaur Alpha, but it can also step back and go for Polyraptor, So It's sort of a hybrid Gruul deck. Like, it doesn't fully commit to either style while, having a somewhat good presence in both styles. I do want to eventually make a deck with 4 Regisar Alphas and take out the Forerunners and just add a lot more aggressive Gruul cards. But that's a different deck. That's like a straight up aggro deck. This is still somewhat resemblant of Naya, where you take a little bit of time to get going, but generally if you can get enough time, then you're going to be doing good. And that's a lot of the times that's how I lose, is that sometimes I just don't have enough time. Time is very important for this deck. Every turn you're trying to get something to happen, and if it's not happening, if they're a little too fast for you, you can get run over. And I would say that I'm a little bit more weak to Merfolk in Gruul, simply because this version, at least, it's not like I can get Trapjaw Tyrant anymore. I have to rely on Needletooth Raptor, and sometimes if they're fast enough, they can actually just say, okay, you get Needletooth Raptor out, that's fine. I can just be way bigger than that at that point. Not always going to happen, but, I guess the point is that any super aggressive deck can still take this out. But, no, I really like this version, and another thing that I like about this version is you can set up Polyraptor pretty effectively, because as I said, I do have 4 Forerunners. I try to curve those as often as I can, simply because you're always going to be getting different threats that you want to have in your deck and just get them out. And you can always ping whatever your opponent has too, so it works really well. As I said in earlier streams, you can grab Raptor Hatchling, play that out, deal 2 damage to everything, and I think that's really good. It's still something to go for, and that's kind of why Raptor Hatchling is a 3 of, because he can be underwhelming otherwise, but if I can get these things going, I can fetch Raptor Hatchling, and then I can just sweep their board up. Similarly, I can actually do that with Regisar Alpha, which is pretty cool, because he also spawns 2 dinosaurs, and yeah, that'll deal a lot of damage. And I guess the whole point is you're either going to want to get your Ripjaw Raptors out, or you try to go for, Galta or Polyraptor. It's very similar to my other list, but there's definitely some differences. I think it's a lot faster than my Naya list. My Naya list goes for, Zakama. I know I haven't unlocked Zakama, but that's what it's going to do. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. If I were to throw a sideboard out there, I would probably throw Regisar Alpha down. And maybe I can do that. Maybe I can build the sideboard real quick. So let's see. Regisar Alpha, 2 of these in the sideboard, because you do want to go ham at times. I've thought a lot about the sideboard, and one problem that I run into a lot, pretty frequently anyway, is that when I'm up against control decks, I generally have 8 dead cards in hand, and they are Reckless Rage and Savage Stomp. So my thought process going into these matchups is that I want to put more creatures in. And I think Rampaging... Oops, I'm sorry. I don't want to put that in the main board. I think Rampaging Ferocidon is a good card. I try to shy away from cards that have 2 toughness, simply because Forerunner of the Empire can kill them pretty easily. Because Forerunner of the Empire, if I play 2 dinosaurs in one turn and want to get Enrage value, I can't do that if I have a 2-powered creature. So generally the stuff I'm going for is 3 power, even in the sideboard. And yeah, let me think of what other additions I could throw in here. Oh, you know what would be good? Phoenix. I can't remember the name of the Phoenix though. All I can think of is Phoenix. I know it has a name though, so let me go find that one. Rekindling Phoenix. Alright. So yeah, I do want to have 4 of these. Yep. Mega Bees, got it. He's too fast for me, man. Too fast with your suggestions. Why is it not loading, though? Did I spell it wrong? I'm a little confused as to why Rekindling Phoenix is not showing up. Oh, you know why? It's because I have Ixalan as the set showing up, so it doesn't show up for that reason. So I think 4 of these sideboard is actually a pretty good idea against control. So now control decks, they're not gaining their life, because that's the main matchup I feel like I need to take into account is control, because those decks can just crush you if you have 8 dead cards in hand. So I try to make as many cards alive as I can. So I can cut out a ton of stuff, add Rekindling Phoenix, add Rampaging Ferocidon, and I'm just trying to think of what else I'd want to have. I guess Carnage Tyrant would be the other big one, right? Something... Oops, I keep putting this stuff in... dang it, I took Galta out. Get back here, Galta. Alright, Galta back in Carnage Tyrant sideboard. There we go. So how many cards am I looking at this sideboard now? 12? I feel like I can run 4 Tyrant in the sideboard, because he's not that expensive. He's just a 6-drop, which for Gruul isn't that bad. If I can get the 4th in here. Oh, it's because one's in main board, that's why. Alright. Now, what else would I even add? I guess Needletooth Raptor is good for creature-based matchups, so I could throw 2 of him. Let's see. Sideboard 15. So that now I can throw in 1 extra Needletooth Raptor. I have my 4 Ferocidons, which probably replace like Raptor Hatchling or something post sideboard. Because Raptor Hatchling, he's kind of bad if he's just not getting his 3/3, you know. So I'm trying to think of what this deck looks like against a control deck post sideboard. And I think I take Raptor Hatchling out, I add Ferocidon in, I take Polyraptor and Galta out, I probably cut all 4 Forerunners, and probably Needletooth Raptor as well. And then I throw in, let's see, that's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 cards that I would take out, and I would add in a combination of like Carnage Tyrant, Phoenix, Alpha, Ferocidon, something like that. And I think that's where I would go if I was facing control. I don't think this sideboard is perfect. I would need to think about it a lot more to create something that I was truly happy with. But I think this is like sort of the cards you're looking for in your sideboard. And one can argue that Rekindling Phoenix could go main deck. Like I could easily see myself cutting 4 Forerunners and throwing in 4 Rekindling Phoenix. That definitely seems like something you could go for. But yeah, that's the Gruul deck. I've been pretty happy with it thus far. I did net up my most positive win ratio since like day 2 using this deck earlier today, so that was a lot of fun. I could talk meta, but I kind of want to get back into the duels train right now, so I'm gonna do that. And yeah, let's get back in duels.